Thank you for joining Passing for Perfect. This is Corey,
I'm Kamisha.
and we have a special Tuesday night edition. Just
Pop-up event.
we're just having pop-up events because we haven't been on in a while. If you guys missed us last night,
Let's make sure the microphone.
yeah, microphone.
Okay, all right.
I made sure.
I have us.
I wasn't tripping.
Oh man, tonight is I'm going to truly be a co-host tonight. This is his zone. It's the sports. This is a sports lovers situation.
This ain't about. This ain't really about sports.
It is, but it ain't. It is, and it is, but it ain't.
It ain't.
I mean, to me, it you got to know the history to really appreciate it. So I think this is like a sports fans episode, even though it will relate to the regular person. This is truly a sports fan episode.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're a man,
If you're a sports fan,
you're gonna be able to relate. You don't have to be a sports fan because my part, the part for me is not about the sports.
right?
I mean, it may generate from sports,
Mhm.
but it's not about sports. It's bigger than the sports aspect of it. So, for y'all who may not know, I'm gonna give a quick synopsis.
Yeah,
Quick.
yeah.
Okay.
He don't know how to do quick, but let's see how it works.
We're gonna get it quick. All right, so Kwame Brown, 2001 number one draft pick by the Washington Wizards, NBA.
Mhm.
Kwame Brown was considered what we call a bust. He was number one overall draft pick. I think his career averages was 7.6 rebounds,
Over the
one
years.
block over his career. But he played 13 years, made $65 million over that 13-year career. And when you look at it from that aspect, he's one of the 1%ers who make it into the NBA. And he made $65 million. And he's set for life. So basketball terminology, it's a bust. But as far as
life, he's a
success story. He come from a small country, bad neighborhood in South Carolina, and he was a 17-year-old. He was 17-year-old high school player that went number one in the NBA draft. That alone is a success. Now, did he win championships? No. Was Kwame on? No, Kwame wasn't on the championship team. He was a success. He was a success from the aspect of life. Basketball, not so much. But he used basketball to become successful.
Right.
But we all know, as sports fans, if you don't live up to those people's expectations in that realm, they consider you a failure. Whereas in the real world, anybody who made $65 million is a success.
Right.
But basketball sees things in a different light. So for the last 20 years, cats have been dragging Kwame in the news, in sports media, in the league, and calling him a bust. And real talk, y'all, until the last 2 weeks, I didn't even know what Kwame Brown's voice sounded like. And y'all know I'm a sports fan, period. So I didn't even know what old boy voice sounded like until the last 2 weeks. But oh my God, he is talking and he is dropping gems and he is bringing all the smoke and he is 10 toes down with his foot on everybody's neck. And this all stems from an interview with Gilbert Arenas, Matt Barnes, Steven Jackson, all former NBA players, all successful in their own right. You would say Matt Barnes was more of underdog, and he was successful. He had a long career. He wasn't a superstar, but he was a great role player. Gilbert Arenas, before he got hurt, was a monster. Steven Jackson. Steven Jackson was probably would have been considered more of a top player if he hadn't gotten in so much trouble off the court. So, but he's a champion. He won championships. Matt Barnes won a championship. Gilbert never did. So that's viewed as success. Even though they weren't superstars, in the NBA, they are viewed as successful players. So in this interview, there was a moment in the interview where Gilbert Arenas was talking about his time in Washington. And during his time in Washington, he brought up Kwame Brown, Michael Jordan drafted him, and how Michael Jordan gave Kwame Brown hell as a GM. Like how he destroyed Kwame's confidence as a player. Anybody who knows anything about sports knows that confidence is a mug. If you don't have confidence, you don't have nothing. So they were talking about that, and Gilbert was saying how he came in. He was a big, Kwame Brown was a big kid. He,
17,
and he was just a big man child whose confidence was shattered, and he was spending time trying to fix his confidence. And Gilbert was like, he feel like maybe if anybody else would have drafted him besides Washington, and he wouldn't have been under Michael Jordan and the Michael Jordan's abusive asshole nature, he probably would have been more successful. Not saying he would have been great, but he'd have been better, had a better NBA career as far as statistics go. Also in this, it came out later that Kwame Brown was supposed to be traded.
He was picked to be traded. He wasn't picked to be kept.
To be traded to the Chicago Bulls.
Right.
So for Elton Brand. So he really should have been in Chicago and not in Washington under Michael Jordan. So I don't remember the details of why the trade didn't go through.
They wouldn't trade.
But he never got traded. So long story short, his career took a whole nother path, and he didn't reach the heights they expected.
Yeah.
So in the midst of this conversation, to me, by listening to that interview, I felt like Gilbert felt sorry. He was trying to support Matt Barnes. Well, Steven Jackson, they brought up when he got traded from Washington to the Lakers. And there were two or three people in this trade. Two people in this trade. And Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes made a joke about there was only one player in the trade, like completely dismissing Kwame Brown, like he wasn't a part of this trade, like he was nobody. And they made some jokes about him being dirt, his career being dirt. Steven Jackson saying, Kwame Brown was the number one pick, and Steven Jackson said, I had a better career than you and I was undrafted or whatever. However, that whole process went. I don't know what part of that sizzled in Kwame Brown's spirit, but he has been on their necks ever since.
Well, they keep talking.
Matt Barnes, he called him Matt Barnes.
So he keeps responding.
Becky with the good hair. He has gone in on Stephen A. Smith, Skip Bayless, Jamel Hill, called a straight for saying just by commenting saying he chose violence. He didn't know what that was, so he thought she was saying he was violent. He gave her the smoke too. Charlamagne the God has gotten the smoke. He won't let he says him and Gilbert Arenas are cool. Gilbert is his boy. Because Gilbert went on his Twitter instantly and like, I want no smoke with Kwame Brown, and told a story about him, something that happened in Washington about a fight in the club with Kwame Brown and his brothers. Gilbert ain't want no smoke. So in this instance, Kwame, like literally, I don't even know what this. Like I said, I never knew what his voice sounded like, but he has been going in on everybody. And at first, when I first heard it, I was like, okay, this is gonna die over in a day or two. You know, everybody gonna try to make Kwame out to be the angry black guy, crazy, tripping. And they went that route.
Yeah.
They tried. They tried to go that route. They tried to do what the media does to black men who are victims of crime. They tried to turn the victim into the criminal, into the villain.
They villainized
and they tried to turn Kwame into the villain. This was a bad idea because it looks like he went in even harder. And Charlemagne the God, who was from the exact same area that Kwame is from, he went on the Breakfast Club, and in his words, trying to tell them to leave Kwame alone, you don't want no smoke with him, he brought up some of Kwame Brown's family history. His about his dad being in jail for murder, for killing the lady. Well, the story he told was that the dad beat the lady with an axe handle, buried her alive, and the only reason they caught him was because he came back to pick up his work check. And about his brother who killed a woman and killed himself, and then another brother of his that killed somebody and was doing life. These are now the daddy, the brother, the uncle. Well, it was the uncle. I'm sorry, it was the uncle that killed somebody and killed himself. It was the daddy's brother. Kwame didn't grow up with these people, so he didn't grow up with his dad. He grew up with his mom. So like he wasn't a part of this. He didn't experience it. He wasn't connected to that part of his family.
Right.
But in prime media fashion, Charlemagne the God saying y'all don't want to mess with him. His family has a tendency to snap. Kwame came right back with the smoke. There's nothing about me that I've ever been violent. I've never been violent. I've never grew up with this family. And
the brother you talking about
is at work with his kids every night, not serving life. Not only did you try to defame me and link me as crazy with that side of my family, you lied. Right. And it's been smoke every chance he got. If we could play, if we would play some of Kwame's conversations, well, Kwame go hard. So if you haven't heard it, catch you on YouTube and go to Kwame Brown's page. It's Kwame Brown the Bust, I think it is. He's using the bus title.
Bus Life.
Bus Life. That's what it is. Kwame Brown Bus Life. Kwame is the real MVP right now.
Absolutely.
On multiple levels.
Now, I listened to some things. I listened to his very first thing because I wasn't aware until last night. So I had to go do a little homework. And listening to him speak, the media and people who just have a platform, a big time platform, did what they normally do. They spoke out, and if you don't know the history, you take what they say and you think they're telling the truth. But as Corey told us earlier about his stats, his stats are low, but across 13 years time, but you've never actually known his game, then those stats would make it look like he was truly a bust, like he really did not play. But when you look at him as an individual player and watch some of the games that he played and how he actually performed when he wasn't hurt and all this stuff, the boy was a baller. So he just so happened to be put in bad situations, like he was under Michael Jordan, when he first came out, which was not good for a 17-year-old kid who he did not want on his team in the first place.
Right.
He only got him to trade him for someone else. So Michael Jordan, being the so-called business brain that he thinks he is, decided I'm gonna trade the number one pick. I'm gonna get a number one pick. I really don't want him because he's too young, and I don't think young people at this age should be, drafted at this age, and they need to play a little longer and all this other stuff. But I really want this other big player. So if I have the number one pick in my hand, I should be able to get this other big player easily. And it didn't work out.
Yeah, Elton Brand didn't work out.
The poor boy, 17 years old, straight out of high school. And for me, as I thought about it as a mother, I have a son who's just now 22 going on 23. My child wouldn't have survived in that atmosphere. If you're not going to nurture a kid and bring him into his fullness or his potential, then you should have left the kid alone or sent him on or let someone else mentor him or something like that. But Michael Jordan, being Michael Jordan, as competitive as he is, as arrogant as he is, cut this young man's spirit. And then he ended up on other teams where he ended up with ball hogs. So he was a co-star, but based on his games, if you watch his performances, he was good. So it just ended up being, a shaky situation, but he came out with $65 million.
It's more of a case of being
wrong
in the
place,
wrong place, right
time.
Now, I won't say wrong place at right time because you made $65 million, so you were in the right place.
Yeah,
you were in the right time, just the wrong place.
Yeah, I guess. I just, when you sit and you listen to him, and then you realize, okay, so y'all made this man sound like he was trash.
Crazy, he was trash.
And then you go and you listen to it's like they say, 3 sides to every story. There's your side, the other side, and then the truth is somewhere in between. But all the fact checkers are like, yeah, Kwame's telling the truth. Because all these different people that played with him and also saw him off the court, he's like, yeah, he telling the truth. So now Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson and Stephen A and all these people.
He made Becky with the good hair to shut off his Instagram. That man closed his Instagram down because Kwame has been going in super hard on him about the situation with Derek Fisher.
Because he egged the situation
he egged it on, and now you're getting that smoke.
Right.
Charlamagne the God went so far as to send out cease and desist letters because Kwame brought back up. I mean, it's been 17, it's been 20 years, but he brought the rape allegations against Charlamagne. He brought that back up. So that's back circulating. That's a conversation again. This was a conversation for Charlamagne about 5-6 years ago. Somebody brought it back up. We're not getting into the details of that because that part is neither here nor there.
He got away with it, supposedly, allegedly. He pled no contest, so
yeah,
that's almost an admission.
And they also, the DNA they found wasn't his, so it's no contest, no whatever, and so that's with him. Matt Barnes, the thing, if you don't know, Matt Barnes wanted to fight Derek Fisher.
I wanted.
Fought Derek Fisher. Because Derek Fisher and his ex-wife, baby mama, whatever, was sleeping together.
At his house.
At his house. Now, Steven Jackson, he's just going in on Steven for being a fake gangster, for being a fake thug. Now, Stephen A, he's giving Stephen A the business. What do you call Stephen A? Bald head scallywag.
Got no hair in the front.
No hair in the front. Bald head scallywag. Call another grown man bald head scallywag. Kwame Brown is the MVP. He is the smoke champion of the world right now.
Well, the thing is that for me, with Matt Barnes, especially because Matt Barnes is the thug, right? So what it is for me is that when I listen to Kwame Brown's first podcast, well, he went live. He can't even call it a podcast. He just went live to respond to what was being said. And it's like he said, I done let y'all talk for 20 years. But what bothered him so was that
for 20 years.
Was that for the two guys sitting up there talking, they're all in the basketball NBA, fraternity. We all played the game. We know how hard the system is to work in. We know the politics in the system and all this stuff. And it is widely known that I was picked to be traded and ended up in a bad situation. But you guys are going to sit there like you all don't know the system and then talk about me and pump this up so hard. And I haven't played the game in however many years.
He's been retired since 2013.
Yeah, so y'all still talking about me to this day. And then Matt Barnes kind of nudged, per se, Steven Jackson to pump it up. And so he's really, really going in on Matt Barnes because it's like you picked, this situation and wanted to go in on me, and I ain't never done you nothing. I don't know you. I don't want to know you. It ain't no beef, but I don't want to know you. I don't care about you. But you chose to drag me like I've done you something, or like we know each other personally or something, and that is not the case. He also made mention of the fact that, what they do, him, them, Stephen A., the media, take black men, and when situations come up and they drag them, they don't give a backstory. They don't give full details. They just drag men and tear a black man down. And it's like you're helping the other side. And this by doing that.
This is the part when I started listening to Kwame at first, because at first I was like, okay, Kwame, I hear you, bro. I hear you got a message behind this. I hear you have a story about your time with Michael Jordan. And I feel like Kwame is going to release some stuff and say some things about Michael Jordan that's going to hurt some Michael Jordan fans' feelings. I didn't watch The Last Dance or whatever, the Michael Jordan thing. I didn't want to see it because my opinion of Michael Jordan has changed a lot from when I was 14, 15, 16, 17, 18.
And I've never liked him.
So my opinion of him has changed. So I didn't want to see that. I always knew he was an asshole. I always knew he was a bully to his teammates. I always knew all this. But I feel like Kwame has some stuff that people don't know that he's ready to unleash. And so in that manner, I was like, at first I was like, okay, he got everybody's ear. He's going to use this opportunity to go on all the smoke. And if they had sense, they would have calmed down and brought him on. But in their arrogance, they kept poking the bear. And now the bear is
roaming the streets.
No leash and broke chain. He is out of Yellowstone and he's in the streets and he's letting people in.
Tearing it down.
My thing with that was I was like, okay, Kwame, bring it down because everybody's only hearing the jokes. Everybody's only hearing the drama. And they're missing what you're trying to say.
They ain't missing it.
But I started seeing that more and more people were picking up on it because I'm one of those people who gonna hear, I'm gonna dig deep, I'm gonna catch where you're coming from. And me and one of my friends who I wanted him to be on with us, but he's working and he couldn't get in. We were saying the same thing, we just were saying it in different directions. We were coming from different directions. And I thought, hey, I say, man, it's gonna die down, he's gonna be on the show. I thought Charlamagne was gonna jump in and come in and bring him on and bring him onto the platform because Charlamagne has the perfect platform. Like Charlamagne has, if you don't know, he has Black Effects, his own station, his own book, publishing, all that. He owns all that himself. Perfect connection. Perfect. But
He put his foot in his
He
mouth.
put his foot in his mouth. And my thing with this, once Kwame started hitting him with the Michael Jordan things, the things about being real men, the things about black men being the biggest detriment to other black men. How can you as a black man, make a living out of
tearing down
other black men?
Right.
Speaking on all the negative of another black man.
Right.
And he started speaking on that, and that's when he caught my ear. Because all the other stuff was just funny to me. It was hilarious to me. And so once he started talking about black men and what being a real man is, and out here teaching these young boys not how to have a conversation and not how to resolve conflict, and they're killing each other because they don't know how to have a conversation to resolve conflict. And you grown men are on TV, rappers, entertainers,
pushing
this. And that's when he grabbed me. I'm like, okay, I hear my homie now. I hear the homeboy now. I'm feeling it. You know what I'm saying? And that's when I was like, okay, come on, Kwame, bring it home. He's been bringing it home. And but he's still giving the smoke at the same time.
He's messing with that man, mama's son.
That man, mama's son. His mama cooking, he's sprinkling his mama seasoning all over the place. That's gonna be a hashtag.
That's his line.
And that's gonna be his
y'all
thing.
Messing with my mama's son. Y'all better leave that mama's son alone.
This is what they do. This is what the media do. They did it to Michael Jordan. As good as Jordan was, there was a time when they tried to destroy Jordan too.
Yeah.
They did it to Kobe. They've done it to Shaq. They did it to Allen Iverson. They be trying to do LeBron. They tried to do LeBron. No, when you are a successful black man, they are going to find
you can't go without a stain
to tear you down. They're going to find whatever stain they can to drag you down. And
right now we're dealing with the Deshaun Watson situation.
With all these allegations.
Yeah.
And even like he spoke on that. We hear Deshaun Watson name and his situation every day. But the guy in Seattle who beat the crap out of his black girlfriend, it was like, it's a white guy. It went like this. And people were trying to tell me, well, he's a backup player. He wasn't nobody or nothing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He almost beat a black woman to death. And they didn't talk about it.
And a lot of people are probably hearing that for the first time listening to you say that.
And the Sean situation is all allegations. No charges have been brought. And
it's a money grab.
Even in his situation, I don't know what he did. I wasn't there. But even in his situation, now the lawyer, something is going on with the lawyer I've never seen in my life, where the plaintiffs want immunity. They don't want anything to be said or disclosed about the settlement if they reach a settlement. And the defendant is like, no, I want this known. I want y'all to know that
because
if we settle, in
other words, I'm innocent, and if I'm gonna pay y'all, the world need to know what y'all came for.
The world need to know that y'all paid. Y'all paid. It was a money grab. It was silver. Y'all got paid, and y'all need to know who you are. Right. And this didn't change until Deshaun and his lawyer demanded that all the women go public.
Right.
And at that point, you didn't hear anything about this for weeks. And then it popped back up in the last week because now it seems like they may be getting to a settlement. And one lawyer was saying the other lawyer came first for the settlement. And Deshaun's lawyer say he never acted. He came to them for a settlement. You came to me requesting money first. Right. And so now it's come back up.
Right.
But in that aspect, this is what they do. And this is why I wanted to speak on it deeper than just him just roasting everybody, because it's deeper than that. It's deeper than that. It's about black men being black men. It's about males being males.
Right.
Men being men.
Right.
And it's certain thing as men, we shouldn't be doing to each other.
Right.
Especially not publicly.
Right. He
especially not in the media.
He made a comment, about Gilbert Arenas taking like tens of millions out of his hands, because he started to ball out and he was right at a double and his bonus for hitting the double, he should have been making like 80 million. Yeah. And he ended up
being like, he ended up getting 3 years for 25 million.
For 25 million.
But
because Gilbert Arenas told the people he was in his way and he needed his time, so it that type of thing. He was like, you took food out of my kids' mouths by doing that. That's the type of thing that men, and like he also made reference to as like he was being called crazy and he violent, and Matt Barnes called him to come out and fight one-on-one, and he was like, okay, before we get profanity on the way. So, he said, you a motherfucking punk bitch. Yeah. That's what you are. You a bitch ass nigga, is what he said. This his words, not my words. And he said, and somehow that made me violent. He was like, that's my opinion of you. That's not me saying that I want to fight you or I need to meet you in the street. He was like, no, you emotional, and now you want to be in the street with it. But I thought we was all just joking. This is just jokes. I'm still joking. Yeah. Ha ha. But
he's big on the alpha beta male thing.
Yeah.
He's riding. He is dragging him with the alpha beta male. That's not one of these things that I'm like into. Like, a man is a man, and some men are more manly than others, but
he literally brought out things that like I hate about this new generation and these labels and things that they like to throw on people, toxic masculinity and all this different stuff. Like, what the hell is toxic masculinity? Like, because they try to call him toxic for saying you a bitch ass nigga. They try to call him toxic when 90% of us who grew up in the Black community has heard that term many times. Okay, even if it's not something you use yourself, you have heard that term many times. It can be said jokingly. That it can be said as fighting words. That it can be said from somebody who is like, you can't whoop me, and that's who you are. Right. It can be said many different ways. And somehow all of a sudden, every time a man is assertive, he's toxic.
I'm a man. I'm masculine. I should be some type of alpha. Like, I should be strong. I should be assertive. I should be a protector, right. A defender,
right.
When necessary.
Right.
But I shouldn't, like Kwame was saying, we shouldn't use that against each other.
Right. That was another point he made.
We shouldn't be using that manliness against each other as Black males, especially to tear each other down. And he was going on to speak on Stephen A, calling Stephen A a beta male, saying he grew up with nothing but girls in the house and he too emotional. He said these men live and die by their emotions, and that's why they act the way they act, because they don't understand what being a man is. Like, you don't, as a man, you have to be logical. You have to be, you gotta
think.
You have to think logically. You have to use your critical thinking. You have to use your mind. And he's saying that's the problem. They've allowed these, like you say, they white daddies to take away their critical thinking and tell them who to be, how to talk, and how they should move as Black men.
Right.
And that's a problem. And I totally 110% agree with him that as Black men, we've allowed everybody to tell us how to be men. No slight to our black women, but it even happens with our black women. Everybody tells a black man how to be a black man, a man,
Except another black man.
except another black man. And we're getting into these cycles of where we have men, kids, boys who in their 40s still acting like boys because they don't have any men around him who know how to be men to show them how to be men. I've seen guys like even watching other podcasts where there were guys who learned how to tie ties in the locker room. They learned manly things about self-care, cologne, all this kind of stuff in the locker room because they didn't grow up with any men around them, any strong men around them, you know. So this is a cycle that has been pushed by the media, by the government, by pushing black men out of households with welfare years ago. This is black feminism, women running into the women's right realm when we were still trying to fight for
equal rights.
Mm-hmm. As black people, we had our women who
adopted the feminist
we
movement.
needed to be supporting our civil rights movement with us as black men. They went over with the white women to support the feminist movement. Our women at the time wasn't worried about getting a job or getting out of the house. We're just trying to get some equality. And so it's been a systematic cycle to attack black men, to destroy, discredit, emasculate black men.
And now black men have joined.
And now black men have joined into this cycle. The feminist women have joined into this cycle of bashing black men. There's nothing wrong with being feminine. You're a woman. You have feminine energy. But don't use your femininity to try. Is that a word?
You just ain't say it right.
Yeah. My big lips and my heavy tongue getting away sometimes. But don't use that against black men.
Right.
Like, don't use that to down us. And black men, we have to learn that we are masculine for a reason to protect these women.
Right.
And we need to learn how to be men, stand up with each other as men so we can protect them. Because you can go to any march and you see more black women on the front line than you do men.
But that's at anything. Unfortunately, when it comes to community, the black community, if you go to church, there's more women than men. If you go to a school meeting, there's more women than men. If you go to a city council meeting, there's more women than men. Somewhere along the line,
because we've been being pushed out of the forefront.
But somewhere along the line, the men have to decide, I'm going back to when men were leaders, not just bystanders, not just that ain't got nothing to do with me, I'm tending to mine. You know, that has become a problem in the black community too. That thought process that that ain't my issue, that's them over there, that ain't me. You know, we lost that village mentality along the way as well, because way back when, you know, men were men for sure, but at the same time, men cradled young boys who didn't have a father in the home for whatever reason, be it death, be it jail, be it he was just gone, whatever it was. Older men back in the day took an interest in a young kid growing up. They tried to teach him something. Now it was on the kid to accept it, but they tried. You know, nowadays, men now, and especially in our community, feel like not my kid, not my problem. So a lot of the boys, especially, are growing up with the mothers, and then we're wondering why these boys are coming out and their emotions overrun them.
Overly emotional. I have a friend who she's single, and she says dating is a monster because how can me as a woman who is already an emotional creature. I can't have a solid relationship because most of the men I meet are more emotional than me, which not saying as a man you shouldn't have emotion, you shouldn't have feelings, you shouldn't have this.
Yes.
There was a time when that was
looked down
on.
Yeah.
But you should have it, but you shouldn't lead with it. You shouldn't lead with your emotions as a man. Like that's bananas to me.
Learning and playing your role was lost somewhere in the sauce. Like it got lost in the sauce. Somewhere down the line, men and women and knowing their roles got crossed up. And when you have that conversation, normally women lose their freaking mind.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they don't want to say that they have a role to play. And if you go back in time, you learn and you see how the family structure in our community was so much more solid back when people played their role.
When we had defined roles.
My grandmother was not a weak woman by any means, but my grandmother played her role. You understand what I'm saying? I learned how to be a strong woman watching my grandmother, learning what I learned from my grandmother. I can go outside and cut the grass. I can wash my car. I can cook a hell of a meal. I can keep my house clean. I can keep myself up and all of this stuff at the same time and take care of my husband and children. And I'm a strong woman, but I play my role. That doesn't make me weak. It means that everything has a structure.
The structure of what's going on. Like
I can't be a cornerstone and you a cornerstone at the same time.
Like
that don't work.
I can't be like I can't be emotional and you be emotional at the same time.
That ain't gonna work.
It doesn't work that way. And we have a question right here. What about the mothers with the don't tell my child nothing mindset? Ugh. That comes from that's a daddy issue. That's a daddy issue on her part. Maybe she had a struggle with her own daddy. And then there's also a part of the child's father not being in there to step in and instill that discipline, instill those type of things. So it's a twofold issue. Right. It's on both sides, right. But it all rolls back to the family structure, dynamic, and not having a family structure, no family dynamic.
Right.
Like listening to Kwame, he was raised by his mama. But he had some men around him that were men, country boys. When you listen to Kwame Brown talk, I feel like I'm sitting under the tree on Reams Road at the stove in Cheneyville, and them old cats just out there talking, dragging each other drunk, having a good time,
playing checkers,
playing cards, dominoes, checkers, whatever. And ain't nobody getting mad,
right?
But we dragging each other. But we teaching each other how to be men. And that's part of the issue in that's part of that issue is the over generations the men have been this is a systematic thing, y'all. I don't really and I'm going to continue to harp that. This is a systematic destruction of the black family. They took the men out of the house. They took industrial jobs away from black men. They took away the ability for black men to take care of the family.
And not just black men, but just low income communities.
Yeah.
Because it was mostly black people, but you find white, Latino, Mexican, Hispanic, whatever. You find those middle America, lower income people who had to rely on the system at some point. You find that, like when we say, most times when you find a white person and you say, oh, they act black, they was with us. Yeah. They was in the neighborhood where we grew up, where there was struggle.
Yeah, they grew up
in the struggle. And we got to stop that they act black type foolishness, because I don't know what that act black is, and acting white and all that stuff. Like
act like a person.
Yeah, I'm me. So that's another thing where it comes to systematic destruction of the of a black community too. Telling somebody they acting black, and acting black usually has a negative connotation to it.
Connotation
So
too. But
that's,
acting white is always positive. Once
yeah,
again,
acting white is
another
proper.
another systematic
Right. So we
media
got to start,
driven.
like Kwame specifically said, we got to start breaking stuff down from the inside. You know,
Yeah.
we got to, men, I'm just repeating what he said, you know, we got to, as in men, got to stop tearing one another down and
Without a
using the
doubt,
strength of
absolutely.
another man to against him, because it ain't your strength.
And you see it all the time, all over social media, all through Facebook, all through Twitter. So, like, I've been trying to change my mindset. I've been trying to change some of the way I do things, some of the things I say, even with my own friends, because I realize, like, that's more toxic than what they saying is toxic masculinity.
Right.
You know, so I've been trying to change my mindset when it comes to that. And that's why he grabbed me with what he said. And we got another comment that said that there could be also be unresolved sexual trauma, which causes a huge distrust of men. Yeah. It's not just daddy issues. True. And that's, I said, when I say daddy issues, I don't always just be meaning daddy as in their daddy. Sometimes I use daddy and just male in general. So that's absolutely true. That's 100% true. Because sexual trauma is an issue for both men and women.
Right.
And that's a whole nother conversation. That's a whole nother layer of
community breakdown.
Because we will bash a gay son, nephew to death, run them out of the family, but will hide that uncle and protect that uncle who's been molesting family members his whole life. That's a problem. That is an issue in our community. That's labeling, like they'll label a homosexual a pedophile, but protect the actual pedophile because he's a man, right, so to speak. You're not a man when you're molesting children. Right. There's nothing manly about molesting children. And we don't talk about this stuff in our community. We don't talk about sexual trauma.
We don't go get counseling.
We don't get counseling. We don't talk about sexual trauma, the results of it. There's so many there's so many black women right now that struggle with sexuality, and those things because they were violated, molested. Something was done to them as a young child that never was uncovered, expressed, told, or was hidden and protected by the adults that were supposed to trust. Mm-hmm. They were supposed to trust and protect.
And same with our young men. We find out more and more as people talk that we have young men who were violated and for whatever reason, I have a problem with it. So I'm going to say I have a problem with it. But in our community, and most times it's men, and men, y'all need to stop that. But there are young men or men as you get older when you find out that they were 10 having sex with the 18-year-old neighbor, or the 20-year-old or 12 years old having sex with a college student, or, you know, that created problems as well. And we wonder why, you know, some men are just hyper sex. You know, they just, all they see in a woman is sex, you know, and all this other stuff. So, but they thought that, hey, shoot, when men talk, a young boy having sex with an older woman is swept under the rug like they, you know, got a medal or something, when really it creates trauma. It creates problems. It creates demons later on in your lifetime that don't come to the surface necessarily in a sexual way, but just in the way you view women, and you don't even realize that you see women in a certain negative light.
And it causes communication issues. Because a lot of these traumas, and this doesn't go away from what Kwame was talking about, because the trauma that he went through as a 17-year-old boy.
Yeah.
Going through that issue
at the hand of somebody,
of a grown man who was supposed to be a role model,
right,
a leader, caused him to probably become the introvert that he appeared to be to us.
Right.
Unbeknownst to us, it wasn't him. He just felt the best way to deal with it was to be quiet.
Right.
No one's going to listen, which is another problem in the black community.
Because it's MJ.
Because nobody wants to. We put athletes, entertainers, we put those people on such a pedestal that it makes it hard when people have issue with these people for them to come out and speak out, because they feel like everybody's going to be against them because I'm going against Michael Jordan, or I'm going against whoever it is. And that's a big, that's a huge problem.
Michael Jordan, to me, and most people, whenever we've had this conversation, or anybody who has had this convo with me, know that I'm not a Michael Jordan fan. I'm not a fan of Michael Jordan, the person. I watched him play. He was an awesome basketball player. You know, you can't take away anything from a man's craft. Kind of like you got to separate R. Kelly from his music. That's how I feel about Michael Jordan. Seriously. He was a great basketball player, but I do not like him as a man. And somehow people have lumped him, like his career is him as a man. And it's not. And you can't say nothing about Michael Jordan without his fans falling to pieces and calling you a hater and this and that and the other. And it's like
Bill Cosby, Cliff Huxtable. Those are two different
people. You know, it's like you cannot sit up and say that Michael Jordan was a great player, so he was a great man. It is not true. Period. He got an ex-wife that'll tell you it ain't true. His children can probably tell you some stories to say that it ain't true. He has former players that played with him, teammates that can tell you it's not true. But to this day, people will want to fight you if you say anything negative about Michael Jordan. I watched people in my neighborhood, in my community, get killed behind his shoes, and the man has never said a word other than, I didn't tell them to spend their money on my shoes. If you can't afford them, you shouldn't be buying them. He didn't try to have things adjusted. He didn't come out and say, hey, y'all, this is not what my product is about. I don't want you all out here in the streets killing each other for something like this. He didn't make any type of public anything.
Just speak up.
He just kept selling them shoes. He kept watching these people get killed and beat up. I literally was in the 6th grade, 11 years old, and catching a friend at middle school, running into school with one shoe on because men pulled over at the bus stop where she was with her Jordans on her feet, and she ran out of one of the shoes trying to get away from them because they was about to hurt that girl, trying to get the shoes off her feet, and she ran to school. That is my MJ story. That's where I am with Michael Jordan. I can't stand him because he's never stood up as a leader to me. He's never been the man that people want him to be. And I believe Brown felt some of that.
And that's part of his issue. That's part of his issue. And he like he said in Kwame said so much, y'all. It'd be kind of hard to remember all the smoke he's giving. But he's been on Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes so hard because they have a platform. They have a platform, an unsolicited platform with Showtime and on All the Smoke on their podcast where they can talk about whatever they want to. They can go in any direction they want to. And he's talking how Stephen Jackson is still out here as a 40-year-old man with his pants hanging, blunt in his mouth. No beef about the smoking. But still portraying this thug, this gangster mentality at 40 plus years old that young kids are emulating and going out and doing and treating each other and killing each other because of these images that these people they look up to are portraying. And like he says, I don't play in the NBA no more. I'm out here with the people. Right. I'm back here in the country. I'm sitting
back in my home,
in my hometown, and he say people be asking me, "Do you know this person?" He's like, "Nah, I'm not about to have these. Do you know this person? These people kind of conversations with you because I'm one of you. I'm not in that life. I never wanted to be in that life. I never portrayed to be in that life. So when I'm back with my people, I'm other people. And his new thing is being we the people. We the people need to overturn and change and fix some of these issues that are in our community, these things that the media are portraying, making black men look like criminals, the narrative, the stereotypes, and these same narratives and stereotypes that we as black men are feeding into and perpetuating now. Right. So now we're just as big as it's to the point where the enemy doesn't have to do anything. We are doing it to ourselves.
It's like we're back on the plantation when they told you to fight to the death and they sat back and watched and laughed. And while they smoked cigars and drank cognac or whatever it was that they homemade wines and all
that. Yeah.
And we understand that, things were sent down because of slavery. We get that. We get that certain things as far as the books and all, as far as sexuality, how there are men who were used to just go around fertilizing, for them to make more money, to have more strong slaves. You the buck, you the strong, you the bigger nigga.
I'm a big believer in slavery, PTSD in the DNA. Like these issues are passed down.
Right.
We are not, for people don't be understanding, like we are not 500-600 years removed from slavery.
No.
Like there are still people who you can reach out and talk to and touch who were slaves.
Right.
Like, so we're not far enough away from this where people can think there's not, they want you to get over it. But there's
the side effects are still
as if
so
the
big.
Side effects and the residual effects of slavery are still not instilled in the DNA because we are the kids and grandkids of the kids of slaves.
Yeah.
Like it's not that far removed. It's not like it's the great.
Literally.
Like we're the great. So
my great grandmother was the daughter of sharecroppers. And people need to understand that sharecroppers were the free slaves, freed slaves. And that's how they kept you, after they were freed and they stayed on the same plantation that they were already had nowhere else to go. So because I can't call you a slave and I got to pay you something, you could still stay here and do all the stuff you were already doing. And I'm going to pay you and you can have a little shack that I had you living in. You can have that. That's your house now. But you got to pay me to live on my land and you got to work this land. My great-grandparents were sharecroppers. So my great-grandmother, my grandmother's mother, this is the lifestyle that they came through. And I have Native American roots on both sides of my family. Poinkipee Indian. There's my family is from Poinkipee, both sides. So imagine being from a family where slavery was just once removed from the matriarch of your family, and then the other side of the family is people where their land was stolen from them,
and the thing
and
is,
that's your bloodline.
That is just passed down because I'm living in the house with my grandmother, whose mother was a slave. So some of those same slave thought process and mentality is in my grandmother, who's passing it to my mother, who isn't further enough removed away to not pass it on to me.
Why y'all think we get whipped? They whipped the best out of us as kids. Switches and
like, we might be off the rails here, bitch.
I'm just saying.
And we in this is our section where we kind of call it off the rail. But that's real. That is real, and people try to disregard that as if it isn't a thing.
Right.
Like, so until we have generations, until we have generations who are far removed from that, it's still going to be a thing.
But we're not gonna get far enough removed from that if we the people don't start owning what it is and then correcting the behaviors. You know, we have to correct the behaviors. Like Kwame said, he said, you celebrities, you know what I'm saying? Y'all celebrities. I ain't a celebrity. I'm here with the people now. I ain't played basketball in however many years, but I'm here feeding people. I'm here putting shoes on people's feet. I'm here running a food program. I'm here doing this. And he's like, you celebrities, you basketball players, you rappers, you these people, y'all make enough money where you can go back to your neighborhood and not just go back for the clout of being able to say, oh, I'm still from the hood, but actually go back and change your neighborhood with your own money. And it's not hard to do. Buy the block. And do something with the block. Put some mothers in some houses and start helping these women with these kids.
And I say this all the time. We need to quit looking for white Jesus to come and save us. Ain't nobody gonna save our neighborhoods but us. We're going to be the ones who fix and restore our neighborhoods.
We have to be,
because they don't care.
Are not.
When you get a neighborhood like where we stay, the neighborhood we're in right now.
Right.
When we start moving into the neighborhood, they start moving out. But the problem is, we move and we take over these neighborhoods. We have to be the ones to maintain, and not just maintain, but to lift the value of those neighborhoods. Maintain the school systems. Maintain because if you can afford to live here, you can afford to do the things that it takes to maintain and uplift. At the very least, keep up the status quo.
Right.
The issue is we don't own enough stuff to be able to appreciate enough stuff. Because if you don't own things, you don't appreciate it, you don't value it the same. I'll tell you, when we were renting, my mindset about the house we were renting isn't the same as my mindset about the house that we're owning. You know what I'm saying? So that's another thing that we have to fix. And the biggest thing that he's been saying that I'm so strong about, we as Black men have to stop talking down negatively, talking bad, not knowing how to communicate and resolve conflict with one another without violence. And we're teaching these kids this so they don't have no conflict resolution. They don't have this. And it's a shame because most of us do. Like you've grown up enough to understand that everything doesn't have to be a fight. Everything isn't a disrespect. We have to learn how to apologize to other Black men when we offend them. Like, let's make this a thing. Like, let's learn how to apologize when we've offended another Black man. Let's not view it as being soft. Let's view it as being a man.
Period. Just men needing to know when they're wrong and accept that they're wrong and say that they're wrong and then fix the wrong behavior. Like that's a man thing as far as I'm concerned.
We perpetuate so much bad behavior, so much toxic behavior amongst ourselves that we can't move forward because we're stuck in that cesspool. Like, yes, we have a problem with police brutality, police murder, assault, all that. That's a systematic issue that the system, where we as the people pushing back against the system in order to get that change, is going to have to be done. But we have a bigger problem in our own communities of violence against each other.
Right.
And at one time, I used to get mad when people would bring up black on black crime. Well, there's no such thing as black on black crime. That's another media-driven bunch of foolishness to highlight and make and criminalize black people. It's crime. It's violence against someone who looks like you. It's just crime. There's no such thing as white on white crime. It's just crime. But when it's someone of color, you have to label it black on black to make it sound worse than what it is. But at the same time, I used to get mad, but now I understand, yes, we need us because we're the only people who are going to fix us. They're not going to fix us. They're just going to come in and lock us up. And
get more free labor.
And get more free labor in the prison system. We're not even finna go on that tangent. But that's something else we have to fix. We have to learn to provide education, opportunity, motivation within our own communities. Like, the government has taken so many things away from us that benefited black folks. That's why I always say everything is systematic. Everything is designed for us not to win when we're already 400 years behind in the process. So we have to learn to provide opportunities for each other. We have to learn to educate each other, not just school education, but common sense education. Teaching history, teaching you that black folks didn't just start with slavery. Like, it's a lot of things that kids don't know, don't understand, that they don't have pride in. So until you have pride in who you are, can stand tall and proud of who you are, and know you have an opportunity for success,
right?
There's nothing else for you but the streets,
right?
But violence.
We have to get back to taking care of one another. The men have to get back to being men, and that's not to say that men these days, for whatever reason, want to be taken care of more than they want to take care of. And that is some foolishness. And that's a mama's boy thing, yes. That's a daddy not being there for whatever the reason is. And
it don't always have to be daddy. There's just not a man who's stepping up.
Be the uncle. First, dad's not there, and that's what I'm saying, And then again, that's when the "not my child, not my problem" pops in, because uncle doesn't go get the nephew and bring him along with his kids.
The men who's in the house who are perpetuating this thug life gangster. The only way you can prove to be a man it's got to be hard. It's got to be gangster. It's got to be a thug. Being a thug has become the definition of being a man. Right. And you're teaching that to your child. So they think the only way that they can deal with other black men is through thuggish behavior. That child is learning the only way I can get my respect is through thuggish behavior. So now when we have a confrontation, we don't have no conflict resolution. All we know is the fight.
Yeah.
We don't know how to have a conversation to talk out the issue. We just know we gotta maintain our respect and our image to fight.
And that's showing up in relationships as well. Because I don't know how to talk out a problem. So for men, it is falling over into all the different aspects of life. But the first thing that wants to be said is, I'm a man. Okay, we got that. We understand that part.
And you gonna respect me as a man.
But can we get to the rest of what makes you a man?
But we can talk it out as men, and I'm still gonna be a man. Like we don't have to
fight about
it. We can talk it out as men. We can have a civil conversation. We can work around this, whatever this conflict is, without somebody dying. With both of us going home, and sometimes we just gonna have to learn to agree to disagree. You ain't always got to be right, because you're not always
going to have to like
right.
You.
And I don't have to like you. We don't have to get along. We're going to respect one each other, and we're not going to disrespect each other, and we're not going to show others us disrespecting each other as black men.
The best skill anybody can learn is to be in the same room with somebody that they can't stand. And it's, oh, well, you over there, I'm over here. We ain't got to talk. We ain't got to like. We ain't got to speak. We ain't got to do nothing. And I'm going to enjoy myself. And it's like you're not here, So that's like the best skill in the world. But a lot of people, a lot of us don't teach that skill. And then now we're in the social media era where everything is put on Front Street and blasted for likes and views and clicks and all these things. So we have a lot of things working against our community. But the biggest thing is that our leaders, our men, are not upholding and uplifting one another. And for whatever reason, and it's not just men, but that's what the topic is today.
Yeah. And because we're old, y'all know we always go. So, but I want to kind of tie this up. So we want men. Let's get back to being men. Let's get back to respecting each other, helping each other, working together, taking care of our families, taking our communities forward. Because we're the ones. We're the ones who are going to have to move this forward. This shouldn't be the women moving forward the black movement. It shouldn't be that way. And until we are back in the forefront in leadership, because they're trying to take us away, they're trying to tear us down, and at some point we just gonna have to stand up and be like, hey, we're here for it.
Yeah.
We're not subscribing to it, and we're not going to be the ones to tear us down. We're not going to be participate in our own destruction.
You just got to think about, how sad it is to still be sitting up on a public platform where you have viewers and a high viewership, to be sitting up still making fun of someone for something that they were 13 years ago or 8 years ago. And his actual draft was 20 years ago, but he ended and retired his career 8 years ago. And you today in 2021 are still making fun of someone. Like, that is a sad occasion that we as people have not arrived at a place where we just learn to not take a dig at somebody for just no reason, for whatever the situation is. Like, if you're talking about something, talk about it. You don't have to drag somebody. Just talk about the situation.
Right.
Make your point and move on. But why do we have to dig? Like, let's get there. Let's get there. Let's talk about our situations and things. Let's make topics without making people a topic.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's not all right to just keep dragging one another down, especially over something like, I have seen something posted a couple times that says somebody has missed out on the greatness that you are now, because they're still talking about who you used to be, and they don't see you for who you are now. You way back round the bend when I used to be that you're missing who I am now. Like, we got to grow up.
Right.
As a people, we got to grow up.
And so, in closing, Y'all figure it out. We need to figure out how to respect each other, how to love each other. We've been away. Somebody in the comments said a long, long time. If you missed us last night, which is our normal night, Monday nights, we've been having some work done at the house and just doing all the relocation and trying to set up and do things and ask somebody to come in and let us come sit in on their place and all that. We just didn't want to do that. So she had surgery, then that came along. So we've been away. But hopefully we're back regularly again. We're back. What next week?
On Tuesday. Not on Monday because Monday's a holiday.
Memorial Day. We'll be back Tuesday. And on Tuesday, if y'all haven't, we got 2 topics on Tuesday. Hopefully we're gonna get through both of them. Dwayne Wade had and Gabby I don't even know how long ago this was. I just caught a whiff of it today, and people were dragging him in the comments on Twitter about him saying that he doesn't lead in his house. And you probably could. It was on Willie D Live is what it was on. The interview was on. So if you can listen to the interview, I haven't heard the full interview. I just listened to that part where he was talking about not leading in his house, and he was getting, y'all know, and I'll get into that next week.
Dragging people for what?
I'll get into that next week because there is a lot of bots and things that are on these social media platforms that grab onto that negative stuff, and that they're strictly there to comment and add fuel to these fires. Mm-hmm. And we have to learn to see these things and ignore these not real people. We're going to discuss that next week. So if you get a chance, listen in on that. And also next week, we're going to discuss sexual frustration in relationships.
How to have a healthy
sex life. So
it's gonna get a little extra next week, y'all. So if you're a little sensitive about the ears when it comes to sex, please just don't watch, because I don't want y'all talking about us.
Right.
If
you follow us on Facebook and you listen to us on Facebook and you haven't gone to our YouTube page, can you please go to our YouTube page? It's Passing for Perfect with Cora and Carnisha, and like it and subscribe, share it. And can you please be on the lookout? We're going to be posting on our
Facebook page,
Passing for Perfect Facebook page, on our personal Facebook page, and we'll also be posting. We'll do an intro video for the next episode, and we'll be posting it. So like, share, subscribe, tell your friends about it. We're here to further people, and we're just trying to help each other. And so as many people as we can help, as many people as we can talk to, the better.
Get this to be our therapy, because we need some therapy. We need some counseling and our
we're gonna do group therapy. That's what this is. People act like life is perfect. They're passing for perfect in relationships, friendships, work, whatever it may be. Perfect people, and we all know nothing is perfect. And that's kind of where the passing for perfect comes from. Somebody said we have about halfway through each episode, I go off the rails. So that's my episode. That's my contribution to the podcast, the off the rails. When we go off to the left, that's me. I accept it. But once again, thank y'all for joining. We appreciate y'all time. Yes. We appreciate y'all hanging out with us. And we don't mind having you come on live with us. If you want to come on live with us, you want to be a part of the conversation, we'll bring you in. Just let us know, and we'll provide you the link to where you can go straight from your phone, your laptop, or whatever. You jump in, you be a part of the conversation. We're not selfish like that.
Mm-mm.
But we want to thank y'all for joining us. We love you. Blessings. Peace.
Swerve back a little bit. If you have any topics that you all would like to discuss, you can send them to our email. We'll post that.
Yeah, it's passing for perfect at gmail.com.
You can also send them
on
the messenger on Facebook.
On our page,
Passing for Perfect page. We like to hear it's so interesting, some of the topics that people come up with, but we like to hear from you all, because that's pretty much why this started.
That's why we're here.
Because we was just talking and everybody was like, yeah, do the podcast. So, it's fun. But heads up, I's married. So next week, I don't want to hear nothing from y'all, because I's married. And so some of the stuff I might say might be a little too much for some of you all, and that's fine. I'm just giving you a disclaimer up front, okay? Because I was married and we have sex, so just deal with it.
That'll be for next week. If you have a boyfriend, girlfriend, boyfriend,
whatever,
wife, whatever, bring them on with you. Let them listen. Add them in. Come on, just join us in. Everybody come.
We just
on.
want everybody
to be family. We want everybody to be happy, have some open conversation, some open dialogue.
Because we learned yesterday. If you didn't watch, go watch the show. Go to YouTube and catch up on the show. Because we learned some startling stats yesterday, which is what prompted this next show. Ain't healthy.
If you've missed any, I think this is show 10. Yeah, 10. I think this is 10. 9, 10, somewhere up in there. If you missed any of the previous episodes, they're all on the YouTube page. They stay up on the Facebook page. I usually let them stay up a couple of days on the Facebook page, and then I take them off Facebook so we get the YouTube traffic, and you can go to YouTube and watch any of the old episodes. This one normally is up, fully ready to watch the next day. Yeah. So, thanks again for listening.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful night.
Peace. Wakanda forever.
Wakanda forever.